Okay. So hi everyone. Once again, my name is Enoch. I'm a fourth year electrical engineer. Today we're going to be talking about the engineering portfolio. So what is a portfolio? A portfolio is essentially it's a representation of all the work that you've done. One thing you might think of when you think of a portfolio is maybe your resume. And a portfolio is somewhat similar to that, but it's basically an extension of your resume. You can put more information in a portfolio than maybe a one-page resume. And what is it? Is it does it have to be like a physical folder, like an actual portfolio? Not necessarily. It could be like a PDF. It could be a couple of pieces of loose leaf paper. It could be a website. Um, yeah. And so, why might you want to make a portfolio? So sometimes it might be required for your internship, your job, or grad school. Sometimes you might be asked to submit a portfolio for any one of those things. It is an efficient way for you to show what you've done and the detail of your design because you are able to put lots of pictures, which allow you to show more detail than perhaps writing things out in words. And once again, it's an example of your own design work. So, how might you go about making a portfolio? We'll get into that a little bit later, but for now, I want to focus on the design notebook. Design notebook is essentially where you will be documenting all of your work that you create, and that way you can make your portfolio. So the things to include in the design notebook could be projects from school, so class projects, senior design projects, anything that you make in a class that you feel like might be useful for somebody else to see. Some examples of that can be any class that maybe you get design units from, perhaps a lab report or some other project that you made that you were really proud of in a particular class could be put into could be stuff that you take down in your design notebook. The other thing could be extracurriculars, or so essentially personal projects, anything that you come up with by yourself that you make, projects from clubs or organizations, competitions as well, and research projects. So basically anything that you do at school, but that is not part of school. And last but not least, if you are allowed to, maybe in an internship or a co-op, you can take down notes of what you did during your internship or co-op so that you can later on put them into your portfolio. Granted, maybe your you might need permission from your employer to do that, but for the most part, they'll be happy to allow you to do that. And so some of the things that you might want to consider collecting when you're doing your projects is costs, timelines, goals, analysis, product specs, and testing. And these are just general things that you would probably need to do whenever you're designing a project or creating a project. Most of this stuff will naturally come to you while you're doing your design. Like you'll naturally have to take note of these things. And having them put into one centralized location, such as a design notebook, is helpful for later on when you're making your portfolio. So you don't have to go back and dig through lots of your reports, etc., to find the information that you're looking for. And of course, the most important thing is to collect pictures. For example, so sketches. So sometimes you might start a design with a sketch. That could be something that you include. And then as you flesh it out, you can include the diagrams that you draw after that. And then as it goes into maybe you're designing something in SolidWorks or Eagle, you can include pictures from your CAD design. And then finally, when it is actually turned into a real physical thing. You can include pictures of your prototype, different iterations. And these are all things that you can collect. Um, so design notebook doesn't necessarily have to be a physical notebook. It can be a folder on your computer that you keep all your information in, but just somewhere so that it is easy for you to find later on the things that you might want to create a portfolio with. So the thing to focus most about when you're thinking about your projects is what did you do specifically? Yes, you can talk a little bit about what you did with your team, but the main purpose is to just focus on yourself. Your portfolio is a reflection of who you are and what your ability is, and so it's best to focus on your own skills. Here are some questions that can help you start thinking about what you did. So, for example, what was your inspiration? What does your project do? How did you build it? What challenges did you run into? What accomplishments are you proud of from completing your project? And what did you learn while creating your project? If any of you guys have ever gone to a hackathon, I actually took these questions off DevPost. And I think they're just good guiding questions when you're trying to think about your project, why you did your project, and what you learned from it. Are there any questions? Okay, so we'll be going on to building your portfolio. So once again, there's a couple different ways to make a portfolio. Um, First of all is a physical portfolio. So there can be different types. You can put all your papers into a binder. They could just be loose leaf, just pieces of paper that you show to people, and they could also be just put in a folder. I would say a physical portfolio is most important when you are in a situation where electronics may not be appropriate. So, for example, if you're at a career fair or an interview where you feel like it would be beneficial to, not have the recruiter pull out their phone or not having to show something on a computer, then a physical portfolio would be the best option. Just something quick that you can show pictures of your design. Once again, the interview portfolio can be physical, just print out some pictures maybe. It can supplement your resume. So when they're going through your resume, and they're looking at your projects, and they're asking you questions about your projects, you can use the pictures to kind of show them what you did, so they don't have to read the words on your resume. Um, I think a lot of the times I've heard that a recruiter will pretty much only look at the left top corner of your resume or the left-hand side of your resume. So they'll look at, what your experience is and your projects, basically just the titles, and won't really read into the details too much. So having pictures to show them will kind of give them those details without making them read them. Uh, Secondly is an online portfolio. So this is really the one that I recommend. It's more versatile. You can basically access it anywhere and put it anywhere on the internet. So for example, when you apply to jobs, sometimes they'll have an option, like an additional option to add like your own website. Of course, you can add links to your LinkedIn, I think for most job applications, but having a portfolio is just kind of something extra that they might look at. Of course, you can add the link for your online portfolio to your LinkedIn, your Handshake, any other job board that you might use. You can also add it to your resume. So I think on my resume, it says like my name, and then right underneath it, it has my name, my location, my phone number, and then it has my portfolio link. And so if the recruiter actually goes and looks at my resume, they might go and look at my website, which would give them more information than what they can get from my resume. And one of the things that I've been doing recently is putting a QR code of my portfolio link on my resume, so I can kind of be like, hey, do you want to take a look at this during a career fair? Like, just be like, hey, you can pull out your phone and take a look at some pictures of the projects you're looking at. One of my friends, he does this, like he just carries, like he makes the wallpaper of his phone a QR code of his portfolio. And so it's really easy for him to just be like, hey, do you want to look at more? He just pulls out his phone, is like, you can scan the QR code right here. And once again, you can pull up the website during interviews. Again, if it's appropriate, you kind of have to be the judge of it. I think nowadays it is more appropriate to bring in like outside material to an interview, but maybe if you're working at a more traditional company, um, they may not be as open to that idea. Any questions? And so here are some of the ways that you can make an online portfolio. I think we can kind of go through these, but so Google Sites it's a free website hosting thing. It's pretty easy to use. I've made websites using it before. See, look, there's a portfolio right here. But it's pretty easy to use, pretty easy to make a site on. It's free hosting. It's just like you don't really get to choose the URLs, so it'll look a little bit weird. But again, it's free. And it's very easy to use. Another one would be Squarespace. So I'm sure, like, if you listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos, you probably heard of Squarespace. Um, I don't have any discount codes for you today, but I'm sure you can find one. But anyways, it's a really easy way to build a site. I don't know if they still have a free trial or not, but um, this is something that you'll probably have to pay for. Same with Wix. Wix is kind of similar to Squarespace. Um, I've personally never used either of them, but they should be pretty easy to use just to get started. Create a website. And then Weebly, I believe, is more of a blog site. Let's see. No, more still a website. So I guess Weebly, Wix, and Squarespace are all about the same. And then WordPress is more of like a blog. I'm sure most people have heard of WordPress before, but it's um, pretty easy to use. You can use other blogging websites too. I would say like don't use Tumblr, but you could use something like I think it's called like Blogger or something like that. I know there's one that Google offers. And of course, you can make your own website if you are so inclined. Let's see. So if you have any experience with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you can go ahead and make your own website. There's a couple of places online where you can host your own website for free. One of the easier ones is you can host like a front end website on GitHub. That one's pretty easy, and it's just kind of fun. Sometimes it's kind of fun to make a website. I would say don't knock it until you try it. Um, yeah, and then there's some pseudo portfolio websites, I would say. Portfolium is kind of like an online slide sharing website. Um, so it's not exactly like a portfolio, but is sort of like a portfolio, I guess. Again, I haven't used this one before, so I guess it's integrated into Canvas. It might be something that you might want to check out. That'd be cool. Yeah. And then of course GitHub, if there's any, let's see, there's a computer engineer here, a couple of one electrical, I guess. Well, either way, if you use GitHub, if you do coding projects, you can always put links to your GitHub, which is acts somewhat like a portfolio, but it's not really applicable to most engineers. So again, it's I guess it depends on what you can do with it. Moving on. So now that we've kind of gone over what you can use to make your portfolio, we should talk about maybe the pieces of your portfolio. And these pieces cater more to an online portfolio. But what you would definitely want to include is a home or a cover page, a page that includes your projects, a page that is about me page essentially. So and then don't forget to add your resume to your portfolio. I think that's important. It doesn't necessarily have to follow these pieces. You can be creative with what you do, but in general, you should have some resemblance of these four pieces. So for projects, use pictures, show, don't tell. Again, uh, people don't really like to read. It's easier to just show them a picture and kind of point out the key parts of the picture. Again, you can tell a story. So maybe at the top, you can show a picture of your finished product, and then you can at the bottom you can kind of go through the DIY, like how did you do it type thing. Again, if you ever collected all of your sketches, diagrams, CAD files, you can really show like the whole design process of like start to end, what you did. And then of course you can do links to other project areas. So for example, if you were part of a competition, if you're I know I believe most of the senior design projects have some sort of website that the school provides us. You could link to there. If you're doing a coding project, you can link to GitHub. But you can include links to other places where they can find even more information on your project. So about me, oh, this question. So would it be helpful to provide brief captions next to pictures? Yes, I believe so. It would be helpful. You can kind of just describe what the picture is. Sometimes you can even label. I would actually label some of my pictures. So like if I would label each. So I created some electronics. I would label each part and what each part is, and then kind of give like a brief description of what it all does together. And then of course each picture is labeled to kind of tell the viewer like what you're looking at. So about me page, it's a mini cover letter. It can be anything you want. Just give some basic information about who you are to whoever's reading it. Of course, links to your other spaces. On my portfolio, I have my LinkedIn, my GitHub, and my Mountain Project page. You could link your Instagram or your Facebook as well if you're so inclined. I think for me, that would be a little bit more private. And always include a picture of you. It's nice for somebody to be able to see who they're looking at. I think a lot of the times it's something we try to avoid online, but in this case, just include a picture of you, like a nice picture. It doesn't have to look professional. It can just be a picture that you like and that you think reflects who you are. So guidelines of good design, and these are guidelines that I kind of took from a research poster, but essentially simple is better. Um, Stick to two fonts. So for example, and I'll give an example in just a sec. Uh, maybe you can use a sans serif for titles and serif for body text. Sans serif would be a font like Arial or Helvetica. Serif would be a font like Times New Roman. Don't use Comic Sans. It looks very unprofessional. There are very few places where you can get away with using Comic Sans without making it look unprofessional. Portfolio is definitely not one of them. Don't go crazy with the colors. If you like neon colors, by all means, you can use them in your portfolio. But personally, I would say I don't really like staring at like neon green and neon yellow for like more than 5 minutes at a time. So I would say don't go crazy with the colors. Don't make your whole website like rainbow, unless you really want to, of course. But usually making something that's easy to look at would be better. And then be concise. You don't try not to be too wordy. Uh, you can, I mean, when I mean concise is like, don't be writing like a whole page essay about each one of your projects, but you can give like 2, 3 paragraphs about what you did and what you did during your design process. Okay, so here's some examples of fonts. This is the Comic Sans example. So again, Just don't do it. Uh, and here's an example of something that might look a little bit more professional. So at the top here, I think we have Arial. It has no sans serif, and then here in the body we have a serif font that I believe is Times New Roman. And then, so now that we've gone through kind of what you might want to include in your portfolio, different options of how you can make one, we could take a look at some different examples that I've collected. So here's one I quite like, actually. He is a UX designer, so that kind of makes sense. But this is his cover page. Um, if you click into this, then you can go to his works. Um, and he just has a bunch of cards. You can take a look at these. But let's see. Yeah, let's see. So lots of pictures, just a little bit of like what he did, and then kind of like, oh, and don't forget dates. Like for your projects, always include maybe like at least a month and a year, just so the person who's looking at it kind of gets an idea of what what the timeline is essentially. And generally, when you put projects on your portfolio, they should be in chronological order. So oldest projects are at the end, and newest projects are at the top. And so again, a portfolio doesn't necessarily have to be just about your engineering work. It can really be about anything. You can put whatever you want in it, but I think the main purpose for most of us is is for job hunting. So it would be, so I guess the main feature of it should be your project. And so again, he has an about me, and you can download his resume here. Here's another one. He is a student at UCI right now, but he gave me permission to use his portfolio. So he has his resume like on the front page, and a picture of him. So I guess his projects, um, school projects. So he divides them up, school projects as well, and then services. I guess. Um, am I going to show his? Yeah, I'm not going to click on this. It's not an advertisement, but that's an idea of what you could do. Uh, so this one is actually mine. Um, so if you click on it, you can take a look at my projects. This is some of the stuff that I've done. I guess let's click on this one. So I give links to GitHub. This is currently broken, so I have to fix that. And then I've divided up between different projects that I've worked on. I include some of my art, an about me page, so links to my other online spaces, picture of me, and then of course my resume. And so one of the things you want to do when you publish your resume online is take your phone number off. And if you have your full address on your resume, take that off too. Just because you don't really want people to, you don't really want people like calling you or stealing your identity. So here's another one. I think this one is made on Squarespace, but it looks really nice. So he has about me. I'd like to compare like, I kind of want to compare these two together. So there's different ways of how you can show your projects. So you could use like like a navigation bar at the top to show different parts of a project, or you can use cards like this. So each one of these is a different project, each card. The design is kind of up to you, but these are two of the main ways that I've seen people make online portfolios. Okay, so for events like career fairs, we carry around our portfolio and show them to recruiters and then give them just a resume, right? Not the portfolio. Um, it's kind of up to you. So from past experience, I've brought like several. So for example, if I were to go to a career fair, I would probably just print out like these three pictures on one piece of paper, or maybe like a bunch of pictures of like what I've done, and with like small captions of what each thing is, as a supplement to my resume. That would be like my career fair portfolio, and you could print out several of them and then give them to recruiters. The thing is, I think from my experience, most recruiters don't want to take them. They kind of just want your resume. So, by all means, if you have the resources to do something like that, then I think it's a plus. Just keep in mind that, the recruiter may or may not take it. But of course, you can always show them when you're doing your elevator pitch. So that's a plus. Take a look at this one. Pretty cool, nice pictures. I think like aesthetic pictures like kind of just add a little bit extra. Um, but I'm not really that good at photography, so it's just kind of up to you. Oh yeah, you can include videos as well. If you've made a video, I think for most senior design projects, you have to create some sort of commercial for your product at the end, and so that's something you can include into your portfolio. And so about it can be short. It doesn't have to include that much stuff, but you can also he includes his Instagram. Yeah. Oh yeah, and also always include your email on your portfolio. That's because that's the main point of contact for most people. Um, that should go under the about me section. So back7.co, this guy is like a pretty well established engineer, but this is more of like a blog style portfolio, but it is still a portfolio. Um, the reason why I say it's blog style is because he just has like a lot of stuff. It's all organized chronologically, but each one of his projects just seems pretty fleshed out. So again, I said to be concise, but if you want to, you can always just give as much information as you want, really. Kind of walk them through the entire design process. Uh, the thing that I would say most is just to have like something like this at the top, just like an overall, this is what I did, and then a very short, like maybe blurb about like what it is. So like just looking at the top part of this page, you can get all the information you need. You don't really need to read the rest of it unless you feel like you're really interested in the article. And so those are some examples of engineering portfolios. So a quick recap. What is your portfolio? It's a visual representation of your work. Um, why should you make one? To convey the detail of your work, to show things that might not be visible on a resume. Um, And how would you make one? Just start collecting material now, start documenting now. Collect any of the just remember to take pictures throughout your project as you're making your project. Remember to record details and just so that you have an easier time later on of including the details into your portfolio. Last but not least, just be creative. There's no right or wrong way to make a portfolio. Um, you can basically do whatever you want, include whatever you want. Um, just anything that you think might be beneficial for you, for somebody else to see if they're interested in learning more about what you've done. Um, so, do we have any questions? Okay. Anyways, feel free to ask them in chat. And so, last but not least, this is kind of like a plug. This is a plug for what we're going to be doing in the next few weeks. This workshop was kind of created in conjunction with the Division of Career Pathways. Um, you may or may not know Allison Keller. She is our representative. She's our representative from the Career Center. She works with engineers. She reviews resumes. Um, she's going to be holding 2 more workshops next week and the week after. One is the resume writing workshop, and another one is the job search strategies workshop. Both of these will be at the same time right now. You can email her here. This is me. I'm Enoch. This is my email. And so one thing I wanted to point out is that, in our current situation, the Career Center is actually providing virtual appointments. So if you want to get like a quick appointment, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, they can take a look at your resume, take a look at your cover letter, give you tips on finding jobs, any of this stuff. You can always make an online appointment. I haven't done this before, but it seems pretty easy to do. And I think it's pretty great that they're offering something like that to us right now. So take advantage of that. Once again, so thank you all for coming today. If you have any questions, I'll stick around a little bit at the end. I'll be sending out the recording as well as the slides as soon as it gets uploaded. And yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.